Добрый вечер, молодежь. Сейчас еще другая подходит, там в вестибюле еще. Я рад всех вас видеть. И сегодня такой первый день, когда мы начинаем все съезжаться. Завтра будет целый день, когда у нас будет общение. Сегодня у нас особенный день, когда начало нашей конференции, нашего общения. Я хотел бы всех вас поприветствовать и попросить, чтобы мы встали и выслушали слово, и после этого мы помолимся. Тема конференции – это послание к Иеремии, это пророчество, Иеремия 29 глава, 11 стих, это тема конференции. «Ибо только я знаю намерения, которые имею о тебе, говорит Господь, намерения во благо, а не на зло, чтобы дать вам будущность и надежду». Помолимся. Любящий наш Отец, Ты когда-то сказал эти слова, и насколько важны эти слова в настоящее время. Ты имеешь хорошее намерение к нам, каждому из нас, к молодежи, чтобы дать будущность и надежду. Ты всегда озабочен нашим благосостоянием, чтобы мы всегда пребывали в Слове, пребывали в молитве. Мы благодарим Тебя за сегодняшний день, за охрану жизни, за то, что Ты благословил приезд молодежи, Господь. Благослови сейчас славословие, песнопение, Господь, проповедь, которую мы будем слышать. Мы просим Тебя, благослови завтрашний день и воскресный день, кто будет оставаться. Мы просим Тебя, дай, чтобы это все было для Твоей славы. Мы просим. Аминь. Я сейчас попрошу, чтобы Даник Калашник сделал несколько объявлений. Он лидер нашей молодежи, и у нас будет потом славословие. И после этого уже, как вы считаете нужно, ведите молодежную конференцию.
Приветствуем всем, очень рад вас все видеть. У нас сейчас будет служение от 7 до 8:30, around there. У нас есть группа из Теннесси, они будут песни петь, и после этого мы 2 песни споем, я проповедь скажу, потом мы заканчиваем еще из 2 песни. После этого у нас будет на низу еще можно поговорить, общение будет, и у нас на улице волейбол. Разные игры есть, тоже можно поиграть. Мы еще ждем пару молодежь, они немножко поздновато приедут, то они долго путь у них. Если у вас есть какие вопросы, если надо найти ночлег, там есть сестры сзади, Ника и Лариса, можно с ними поговорить, и они вас распределят. Спасибо.
По преданию отцов человека храня, на скрижалях твое откровение. Год за годом его ведь и ты превращал, чтоб забыла о Боге творение. Но не букву закона Господь подарил, благодати никто не разрушит. Тот, кто искренне Богу всем сердцем служит, не на камне писали, а в душе. На скрижалях сердца напиши, алой кровью для моей души, чтобы помнила любви Твоей, вспоминая раны от гвоздей. Боже мой, сотвори веру твердой, как камень, дабы жизнью своей о Тебе рассказать, мною прав изнутри и душой, и руками, чтобы в нужный момент все, что есть, мог отдать. скрижалях сердце напиши, але кров'ю для моей души, чтобы помнила любви Твоей, вспоминая раны от гвоздей. Никакая беда почерк Твой не сотрет, даже если гонение вернется. Воду жизни душа и в пустыне найдет, и любовью Твоей напьется. На скрижалях сердце напиши, алой кровью для моей души, чтобы помнила любви Твоей, вспоминая раны от гвоздей. На скрижалях сердце напиши, алой кровью для моей души, чтобы помнила любви Твоей, вспоминая раны от гвоздей. Дивный Спаситель Христос, Ты самый лучший мой друг. Все я Тебе отдаю, даю, сердце, любовь жизнь свою. Все я Тебе отдаю, даю, сердце, любовь жизнь свою. В мире греховном блуждал, в всей неправде я жил. Ты же меня возлюбил, любил, кровью грехи все омыл. Ты же меня возлюбил, любил, кровью грехи все омыл. Песню о вечной любви в сердце мое Ты вселил. Дай силы крест свой неси, неси, верным Тебе быть пути. Дай силы крест свой неси, неси, верным Тебе быть пути. Дивный Спаситель Христос, Ты самый лучший мой друг. Все я Тебе отдаю, даю, сердце, любовь жизнь свою. Все я Тебе отдаю, даю, сердце, любовь жизнь свою.
Приветствуем, дорогая молодежь. Мой проповедь будет на английском. Я знаю, много из вас здесь по-русски разговариваете, но пару друзей должны были приехать, но они застряли из-за дороги. Там они ремонт делают, то они поздно приедут. So, very happy to see everyone here. And I know my Russian's not that great. So our conference, Finding God's Will for Your Life, that is one of the most asked questions for youth and their day-to-day lives, is trying to figure out, what is God's will for my life? Is this the right path that I am on? Am I supposed to be searching for something else? And is it truly where I'm supposed to be in life? A lot of people live their lives not knowing what their purpose is, and I feel like that is the most scariest thing for us as Christians and non-believers, to live our lives day to day and not knowing your real purpose for this world. I want to share with you today the message that I was reading in the Bible. If you guys could open up Ephesians 5:15, 17. See then that you walk, let me just hold my papers, a little bit easier that way. All right, my paper's a little different. Ephesians 5, yeah, okay. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of your time, because the days are evil. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand the will of the Lord is. Now, when we know and understand God's will for us, we can start redeeming any time we have lost among the way in our spiritual walk. And it is crucial that we redeem the time, especially in the days now, because we don't know how long we're going to be on this planet or how long God has given us. What does it mean to redeem lost time? We can lose time in many ways, such as living in unforgiveness, holding grudges, bitterness in our lives. But in the Bible it says, as we just read, is see that you walk certainly, and not as a fool, but as a wise, redeeming the time, because the days of evil. There is a power in knowing the will of God, and we understand His will. Oh, and when we understand His will, we can start by redeeming the time that we have lost to open up His power in working in our lives. How can we know for sure in our lives that we are living for God's will? Indeed, if we open up Matthew 7:21, not everyone who calls out to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven. Only those who actually do the will of the Father in heaven will enter. Jesus makes this plain. Makes this plain. Doing the will of God is essential. Thus, knowing His will is what we can do. Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm a little nervous. Knowing His will is by walking on His path and knowing what He has written and how we can accept it in our lives. Jesus goes and says that many will come to Him on the final day and will be turned away. Why is that? On the day of judgment, many will say, Lord, Lord, we have proclaimed in your name and cast out demons in your name and performed many miracles in your name. But I will reply to you, I never knew you. Get away from me, you who break the law. That was written in Matthew 7:22 and 23. Notice that Jesus says that if you do not follow God's will for your life, you break God's law. The word, so not following the will is the same as committing lawlessness or breaking God's law. I have a couple of points that we can check in our lives to see, are we truly on God's path? Are we truly working in, are we truly learning the will of God, and is it applying to our hearts right now? And one of them is to walk with God. For starters, that's one of the main purposes in our lives, is to walk with God. Because if you can walk with God, and knowing God, He will start to open up the will and the plan in your life. Then you must learn that you have to walk. Because once you develop a relationship with God, because when you're walking, you're constantly reading your Bible, you're constantly in prayer, and God from there starts to open up slowly the will for your life. He's not going to just give you the whole plan and be like, there you go. You prayed to me. You walked, a couple of days with me. It seems like you're honest. He's not going to just give you the pamphlet and be like, here you go. There's the finish line. Just cross it. This is how I want you to serve me. But we must first walk and seek Him and to know about Him. That's why we read the Bible and we pray. Number 2 is surrendering your will to God's will. Many times when we're seeking God's will, what we really want to say is, okay, God, so check this out. I want to become a nurse. I want to have this house. I want to have this car. So I don't know much about schooling because didn't go that route. Let's say nursing is 5 years, and then after nursing, I'll be able to get the car. After the car, I might be able to meet someone after that because I'll have a stable job. I'll have my own vehicle, and, maybe that will cause an interest into someone, and we'll get married, and then, we'll have kids, and then they can start their own journey. But in Romans 12:1, it says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the miracles of mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy acceptable to God, which is your responsible service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is good and acceptable and what perfect will of God. Jesus is willing to die for us, so why shouldn't we live for Him? When we surrender to Him, then He really begins to direct us on His path. And there's another one, obeying what we already know to be God's will. So me and a brother, not my brother, like a spiritual brother, we were walking and we constantly had these conversations. What was God's will for our lives? And how do we know that this is certainly God's will for our lives? So we started talking, and I got a phone call from a brother saying that there's a youth conference. A youth leader conference down in Florida. So we ended the conversation. He kept praying about it in secret. I never knew about it, that he was asking God at that exact moment, what is my will? What am I on the planet for? There's got to be something more. I can't just show up at church, do some slужения, and that's it. There's got to be something more. He feels the emptiness in his heart. Same thing for me. That's why I went to the youth leader conference. Maybe I could talk to the brothers, see what did they achieve in their life? What next step did they take? Maybe I should be taking. So we went to the youth leader conference. It was really great. We talked about leadership skills. We talked about the Bible, how we open it up to different people. I got to talking to one of the brothers from Massachusetts about missionary work, because for me, I feel like I do a lot when I'm at missionary work, like building and doing things like that. Right after I signed my name, he signed me up on one of their team effort building skills. I think it was the next day, we're driving back, and I got a call from my brother-in-law saying, hey, I thought of you right away, and I want to invite you to go to a missionary trip to build houses for people that are injured, that are handicapped, but they love the Lord, but they just don't have the skill or the strength to build anything. And at that instant, I was like, no way. I was literally just asking God, like, what's my next step? Like, what am I supposed to be doing in life? And I right away thought of my brother here. I called him up and I'm like, do you want to go on a missionary trip to build the houses? Without a doubt, he was like, he didn't even think about the answer. He was just right away, yes, I'm going. I'm like, you got a passport? He's like, no. I'm like, oh, dude, we're leaving in like 2 weeks. So he went to the embassy, signed up. I think it's the embassy or it's the town hall. He went, talked with them. They said there is a way to get a passport accepted in like 4 days. He got a passport. It was miraculous because usually it's like 6 months to get a passport. So he right away went, paid I think it was like, he paid a certain amount, got his passport, called me. He's like, I got my passport. I got the plane ticket. Let's go. I was still shocked that he got all of that fast. And I was like, no. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's see what God has in store for us. So we make it to this trip. And the family that we met, the husband used to work on a chicken bus. This is in Mexico. So the chicken bus is like a regular bus, but the person on one of the passengers is on the side of the door. He jumps out, tries to catch people and be like, oh, come on our bus, come on our bus. And that's their job, is to get more people to get on their bus, because that's how they make business. So he jumped off, and I think he twisted his leg, fell, and the bus ran over him. And his arm got completely mangled. They had to rip out a bone from his hip or one of his legs, and they added it to his arm, and he walks around like this. And his wife is blind. She's 93% blind. Their son is 52% blind. We were saving up money to give him an operation for his eyes to get better. Thank God that his eyes are getting better. They're opening up. He's just wearing specific glasses. He's not allowed to go outside too much. And both the sons dropped out of school to help their parents. And just seeing that they would drop everything just to help their parents, really touched my heart. I was like, wow, I wouldn't expect, kids at like age of 14 dropping out of school and being like, all right, I guess we're going to be leading the house now. Let's let's help out. Let's bring some cash into the house. So one of them would always walk around the houses, like the landfills. He'll pick up random, like broken washing machines and stuff like that, and he'll fix them at home and sell them. And I asked them, I was like, where did you learn this skill? And he's like, it just came to me. It just showed up. And it was amazing just watching him fix certain things, because for me, I do construction, so like I know that it takes a certain amount of years to get to a certain level. Like for electricity, you got to learn everything about it: the ground, the power, the live, where to plug in, where you're not allowed to plug in, 3-way wires, 4-way. It just gets really complicated. And this kid it randomly came to him, and I was like, dude, this is literally amazing. Like, you literally have a talent. And it was interesting to see that, because the other brother is into cars. He likes to fix like bikes and stuff. Kind of reminded me of my old younger days, where we would be riding bicycles. We'll like lift them up, change the tires. You didn't need to change the tires, they're fine. But we'd change the tires, the belts on them. Our dad would always be mad because the keys would be laying all over the yard. And we got a call to check out the property that they had. We walked in, they had a 1-bedroom house where all the kids and parents slept in one room. They didn't have a bathroom. I think it was just like a hole in the ground. Their kitchen was right next to their bedroom. The living room was next to the kitchen area, so there's no walking space at all. And so we went down to one of the lower areas of their land where we're supposed to build the house. And there's a well that's probably 6 feet wide, and it goes 30 feet deep. We're looking at it, we're like, that's a big well. We're supposed to add, I think, 10 more feet to the well. And we found out that the father has been climbing down the well and has been digging with, I'm not sure how he's been doing it, but he dug those 30 feet into the ground. And it was just amazing to see someone like that, because usually in America, when you get injured, that's it. You're like, ya na pensé, so I'm not going to do anything anymore. The state will pay me. I worked my days off. But this dad, he was constantly trying to provide for his family. And once me and my brother, we started helping them. We started carrying the bricks, started laying it for the house foundation. We started building the walls, started laying out the whole house. These people, every day when we showed up, they started crying, just seeing us, that we're there, that we left everything here. We left our families, our jobs, our cars, all our like comfortable lifestyle. We left it and went there. We wake up sweaty. We go to work. We're completely covered in dust. It's hard to see because the wind keeps blowing up the dust. You got too much traffic. There's so much air pollution. And we're just excited. We're so excited to be there to give that kind of help. And they start walking up. The dad's like grabbing bricks, coming up to us, handing it to us. And you see the joy in his eyes that there are good people out there. And we are able to show them God's love and show them that God is real and he cares about them. No matter how small they may look to the world, they are cared for and that they are important. And we got together with the group. They talked about supporting that family. The sons got into a mechanical college. They will be working, so they'll be paid for going to school, and they'll also be paid at school for rebuilding like certain mechanical objects and stuff like that. And once we started driving back home, we finished everything. It was an amazing experience. And while we're driving back, we talked about it. And my brother was like telling me, he's like, dude, you know, I prayed right when you called me. He's like, I was praying that God show me the will of my, like, what am I supposed to be doing in this world? Like, what was I made for? He's like, you know, I didn't do very well in school. And, you know, a lot of us, when we do our IQ tests, technically, a lot of people are like, okay, so I got a low score. You know, I'm not that smart. Might as well go work at McDonald's. And by those scores and by our parents' dreams for us, that's how we view ourselves, and we don't really try to achieve anything higher in life. And he was just really confused in what it was that he was made for in this world. So once he told me that, I was like, there's no way. I'm like, I was literally thinking about the same thing. I was asking God, open up to me, show me what I'm supposed to be doing in this world. And we both do construction. So each person in here has a skill that you are made for, that God has purposely given you. Everyone has a certain talent, and we think that, oh, you know, maybe I'll just do this. But God implanted in each person a talent that he has designed for you to give back to the world, to provide, to show people that God does exist, to help others. And just seeing that all these years, I always thought, oh, you know, I'm just going to be doing construction. I'll just be puffing away, and that's it, you know, until, you know, I get old. But seeing that I keep getting called into different groups. Hey, we're going to here build. We're going to do building there. And I just get filled with this joy. And I'm like, oh, man, I just started this new job. There's no way I'm going to get let off. I called them, and they're like, oh, yeah, you're totally free. You can go. And I'm like, no way. And like, usually if you work at a place, you have to give them a 2-week notice. I think I gave the guy, like 7 hours. It was kind of messed up. I felt really bad. I came back the next day. I gave him a jar of honey. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. Hopefully this can sweeten out the deal. He did. He liked the honey, so I was happy about that. But I was just amazed to see that I was able to go to that event, even though I started a new job. So in our lives, God gives us different kind of opportunities. And every time I'm reading in the Bible, every person God has ever met, the first thing they do is they believe in him right away. They believe in him and they give him their all. Abraham said, yes, Lord. And God said, you're going to be father of many children. Abraham was barren. They had no kids, but he believed. Then Moses said, yes, Lord. The Lord said, you will be a mighty warrior and a deliverer. Moses was a shepherd, and he was hiding from the law. You really don't expect someone in that criteria to be something special. Then you have David. David was told to be a king. David was a shepherd. And it is just interesting to see that even in the Bible, you have these mighty people, these mighty Christians that were walking sturdy in God's faith. And then we think, oh, well, I can't be that mighty. You know, I have way too many flaws. And once you start reading the Bible, you see, okay, they had flaws too. God didn't look down at their flaws and be, oh, you know, that's it. You can't follow your will. There's nothing for you. But it's interesting to see that even though they messed up, God still had a will for them. They were still on the path that God has designed for them. At my work, I have a brother that doesn't really believe in God, and I don't really like to walk around work and be like, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm better. You know, I don't say I'm better. I don't really like to proclaim it and like tell people right in their face that, oh, I'm a Christian, I believe in God. What do you believe in? And I got 2 job offerings, and for me, I'm at a certain point in my life where I want to be stable. I, want to find a godly wife. I want God to show me the true path that he has in my life. So I prayed about it. I asked God, what am I supposed to do? There was an easy path. I could join one job where they're all Christians. I would have Bible studies in the morning. I would be constantly praying. I'll be surrounded by good people. I would never miss a church service, any of the spievki. And it seems like a no-brainer, like, oh, yeah, just join that group. It's great, it's really simple. Just go for it. But I knew that in my heart, something was off. So I prayed, I fasted for it. And 2 days later at work, one of the guys, one of the scariest looking dudes you'll probably ever meet in your life, comes up to me smiling, and he's tatted up. He's got like this thick chain. I thought he looked like the Mexican cartel. He was an interesting guy, and he's got like those high socks and those like long shorts. And he walked up to me smiling, and he's like, dude, I'm so surprised. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I never expected a Christian person to work construction. He's like, everyone swears here, and it feels nice to have you here, just to have someone with a strong faith around us. And he's like, a lot of people told me that if I walk into a church, it would burn to the ground, that I would either get smited by lightning for even trying to walk up to that church, or that church would literally burn. And I talked with him about it, and he was just asking me just specific questions. Why do you believe? What's the point? And I was like, there's a will in our lives that God has given us. There's a path that we're supposed to follow. There's a path that you can go to the right, you can go to the left. But if God leads you, he will always bring you back to the middle path. He will always show you what you were made for. That's why in Jeremiah 29:11, it says, I know the plans, declares the Lord. So he already knows the plans before we were even born. He knows what we were put on the earth for. Before we even went to school, he goes, all right, you're going to be a preacher. You're going to have a family of 5. You're going to have this. He already has it all written down. He knows what we're doing. So why don't we just give it back to the Lord? Why don't we just ask God, what is the real purpose that we're on this planet? What are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to give back? And the funny thing was, once we had the discussion, I don't know why. I like to watch a lot of like discussions between Christians and non-Christians, and I was watching him, and you can see in his eyes that he's genuinely serious about the conversation. And I was very shocked. I was like, all right. I'm like, maybe, he might stab me after work, but we'll see what happens. After our conversation, he smiled. He's like, dude, he's like, you're an okay guy. He walks away. And I was like, oh, man. I'm like, I should have never told him that he was a sinner. I'm like, dude, this guy's like bigger than me and everything. And the next day, I was sick the next day, so I showed up 2 days later. I walk in, and they're walking, I work with 2 guys, Finnish carpenters. They walk around me, and they're very careful with their words. They're not trying to swear, and I'm like, what are they doing? Like, at the area, it just felt off. It felt weird, and these guys are just walking around. He swears, and the other dude looks at him, and he's like, how could you, man? And I'm like, what is going on? And then it's like already lunchtime. I come up to one of the workers. His name is Tim, and I was like, "Dude, what are you guys doing?" And he's like, "So, since you're Christian, we decided to make you feel more comfortable here with us." He's like, "We really don't want you to leave." He's like, "We feel like we can grow, we can learn more from you, and we wanted to stop swearing in front of you just so you could feel a little better." And I was like, "Dude, that did not work. You guys sweared probably 20 times more than you would in your regular days." And they were like, "We're sorry, we're going to try to work on ourselves." I came back home and I was just filled with this happiness, and I was like, "Dude, maybe this is what God wanted me to do." So I prayed a little more about it, and then I started getting calls from the workers. Usually you would never communicate with your worker. You just go to work, you do what you're supposed to do, you come back home, that's it. I got random calls from one of the workers. "Hey, I need help with this, can you stop by?" So I started visiting, I think mostly my whole team, because we have 3 different teams. I started visiting mostly every single person. I had been helping them out with like just little projects around their house. And it's interesting to see that a lot of times when I'm hanging out with them, they're very careful with their words. They try to always know more. And for me, I'm like, "Oh man, hopefully I don't trip up. Hopefully I say the right things to them. Hopefully, I can show them that God is forgiving, that he loves them. And I don't want to show them the wrong path. I want to show them that it is true that God has everything planned out for us, even though they went to prison, even though that there's certain things in their life." I showed them parts of the Bible about Moses. He murdered someone. Technically, in our day now, in America, if you murdered someone, a lot of things are already not allowed for you. You're not allowed to have a gun. You're not allowed to go to certain places, and you're limited. That's what happens. And when I was talking to them about it, they're like, "No way. He led a whole nation. Well, he led all of Israel out of Egypt, and God provided." They had a one-on-one conversation, and they're like, "Okay, so if God can forgive someone that's done something so terrible, maybe I can be forgiven as well." So right then, when I was praying, I got a feeling that I'm in the right place, that God has placed me. So I'm still working with the same team. It seems like we're all getting much closer. They actually are very good with their swearing now. It's very limited to like maybe 4 swear words a day. They're starting to worry more about their bodies, because I was like, "Oh, how are your kids doing?" They're like, "Oh, we don't live with our kids anymore." And I'm like, "Oh man." I'm like, "When I went with my dad, we did this. And I told them the love of the Father, and how he was with his kids and how he's with us, that we are his children and that he cares about us." They started, trying to reach out. They tried more to be a part of the family. And it was just interesting to see that just from one decision, I was able to walk more straight than I ever had in my life. And I know that each person here has a specific gift that God has given them. And one of the books that I have been reading that opened up God's will a little more clearly for me was The Power of Prayer for Teens. For us to talk to God, the main source is prayer. Once we pray with God, we are able to have a one-on-one conversation with him. When we pray, we can ask him even the smallest things, and he will always answer. It will be slow. It might be no. It might be wait. But he will answer. He always does. And I want us to find God's will for each and everyone's life, so you guys don't walk around living life not knowing what you guys were destined for and what God has truly planned for your guys' life. Tomorrow we'll be talking more about God's will, and we'll be talking about God's will for your marriage and for your ministry. Let's stand up and pray. Боже, я очень благодарен за это день, что нам даешь, Господи, что Ты нас собрал в одно место, Господи, что мы могли узнать Твое Слово, Господи, что мы могли раскрыть Твое Слово, Господи, могли узнать назидание от этого в нашей жизни, Господи. что мы могли стоять твердо, Господи, в Твоем вере, Господи, что мы могли уповаться на Тебя, Боже, что мы могли с вопросами в нашей жизни обратиться к Тебе, Господи, и не бояться, Боже, дай, чтобы мы могли верно идти за Тобой, Господи, что Ты нас держал своей рукой, Господи, вел нам по Твоим путям, Господи, раскрой Твои will for our lives, Боже, дай, чтобы мы могли верно идти за Тобой, Боже. Сохрани молодежь, тот, кто не смог приехать, Господи, и тот, кто едет в трафике, Господи, пожалуйста, благослови всех, Господи, храни нас. Сохрани эту конференцию, Господи, раскрой наши сердца, Господи, чтобы мы могли знать Твою волю. Боже, Ты слава веки веков. Аминь.
So we will have Tennessee finish off with 2 songs. After that, we will finish off with a prayer, and we will be heading downstairs for, we ended a little shorter than I wanted to, but that's all right. We'll have more communication. I will talk more to find out who's from where, little icebreakers here and there. Thank you.
Научи меня, мой Господь, во всем, волю исполнять лишь Твою, чтобы мне по слову Твоему доказать, что Тебя я, Спаситель, люблю. Научи меня среди тысячи голос слышать лишь Твой. Научи меня за Тобой идти, край желанный дорогой. Научи меня среди тысячи голос слышать лишь Твой. Научи меня за Тобой идти, край желанный дорогой. Научи меня в грешном мире жить, чтобы свет Твой сиял во мне, где не может скрыться город большой, стоя на высоком холме. Научи меня среди тысячи голос слышать лишь Твой. Научи меня за Тобой идти, край желанный дорогой. Научи меня среди тысячи голос слышать лишь Твой. Научи меня за Тобой идти, край желанный дорогой. Научи меня жизнь свою прожить, что в конце услышать ее. Добрый, верный раб, скорее войди в радость Господина своего. Научи меня среди тысячи голос слышать лишь Твой. Научи меня за Тобой идти, край желанный дорогой. Научи меня среди тысячи голос слышать лишь Твой. Научи меня за Тобой идти, край желанный дорогой. Я верю в Иисуса, Он цель моей жизни и свет. Я верю в Иисуса, прекрасный имени нет. Я верю в любовь, великую Божью любовь. Не наше спасение, прощение наших грехов. Моя чудный, Спаситель услышал в ответ. Ты Бог мой единый, другого воистину нет. Моя радость лишь в нем. Мое счастье лишь в нем. Моя сила лишь в нем. Только в нем, только в нем, только в нем. И вот мое сердце наполнило радость о том, какое же счастье в их близком общении с Христом. Хочу я, чтоб люди могли эту всю увидать, душою и сердцем Спасителя верой принять. Моя радость лишь в нем. Мое счастье лишь в нем. Моя сила лишь в нем. Только в нем, только в нем, только в нем. Моя радость лишь в нем. Мое счастье лишь в нем. Моя сила лишь в нем. Только в нем, только в нем, только в нем. Слава Богу.
Аминь. Спасибо за это все. Можете стоя... если хотите, можете присесть. Это спасибо, молодежь из Теннесси, что вы приехали, спели нам. Это очень благодарность. Сейчас мы помолимся за еду. Еда будет где-то возле 8:15, 8:20. У нас будет бургерс и хот-догс. Бесплатно. Это не кемп, как там всегда платят за еду. У нас есть друг, приехал из Ири, Саша. Он продает coffee. He's got iced coffee, hot coffees, and some sparkling drinks too. So if you guys want to, если у вас есть участие, пожалуйста, подойдите сестру Вилеты, она вас запишет на завтра. Если есть какие-то вопросы, можете подойти ко мне после служения или для ночлег. Сестры там сзади, мы еще продаем мерч. Я знаю, что на улице жарко, очень жарко, но свитер все равно надо. Ночью всегда холодно, у нас что-то все равно 80 ночью, so холод будет. Мы завтра специально так кондиционер врубим, чтобы сразу замерзли все. Очень благодарен, что все смогли приехать. Я знаю, еще больше молодежи должны завтра подъехать, и много все равно едут сейчас, потому что стройка идет на дороге. Давай мы сейчас встанем, помолимся за пищу. И первая часть закончится, и завтра в 10 приезжайте. У нас будет здесь breakfast. So, если вы оставаетесь у кого-то на ночлег, постарайтесь в собранию приехать хотя бы в 10 или в 10:30. Да, помолимся. Боже, я очень благодарен за это прекрасный день, что дал, Господи, что Ты хранишь нас, Господи, дал нам быть здесь, Господи, и прославить Ты имя, Боже. Я очень благодарен за молодежь, что они приехали, Господи, могли восславить Твое имя, Господи. Сохрани нас, когда мы будем расходиться отсюда, Господи. И сохрани молодежь, кто завтра будет приезжать, Боже. Благослови Ты душ, что будет подана к нам, Господи, да, что Твоя еда. Благослови Ты душ, что будет перед нами, Господи, да, что кто не смог кушать в этот день, Господи, благослови. Усмотри все, Господи, дай, что Твоя любовь была на нас и на других, Господи, слава веки веков. Аминь.